Come on. I think my, I think we're on. We're on live.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome back to Facebook Live with Dr. Nelva Bryant.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a little bit of time since we've seen you, since the end of last year. And so much has been happening, and Dr. Bryant has been growing and really doing a lot for the community. And I want to actually ask her a couple of questions so that we can get her all caught up with us in for the beginning of just of this episode, and then we'll go into our new I'm sorry, our new
Oh
I'm
yeah,
having a brain fart here. Our
definitely. It's
new
okay. Definitely. We are trying to get it back together again. Yes, there was a little space. You could say we were off for all of January, but a lot of great things happened in 2022 that are going to progress on in 2023. Some of the things for me, positive things that's happened. I have applied for trademarking of When Pets Fly, so I've been given the conditional approval to use the SM symbol for When Pets Fly. So I'm very excited about that.
we need a clapper. Yay!
Wait. You know me. Hold on. Here we go. Oh, you got to work. Oh, I know why. There we go. Here we go.
There we go.
Okay. But I'm very happy with that. And it felt like I was dragging my feet on trying to get it done. The process is not as difficult as I guess I was expecting it to be. I had a good colleague to help me with it. So, but yes, apply for trademarking. So I'm happy about that. The other positive thing for 2022 that I'm really honored to be a part of is that I've been asked to be on the governing board for American Humane. I don't know if you know about American Humane, but it's kind of one of the oldest humane societies in the United States. They do so much more. They're probably not as well known as you could say the, gosh darn it, the other humane societies such as ASPCA and the others like that. Not as well known, but they are doing so much more for animals, for service members, as far as they have, let's see, I attended an event where it was Dog Hero Awards I went to back in November, where they recognized.
Yes. They're the home of the Dog Hero Awards, and that's probably where most of our viewers will have heard of the American Humane.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that Betty White was a member of American Humane.
Yes, Betty White, Winona Judd, that unfortunately passed. She was a member and supported American Humane. So very, very well-known American Humane Society, basically American Humane. But again, they're doing so much more as far as just really taking care of animals, taking care of service members. And a lot of their initiatives really are, again, look up their website. Another positive thing they do is they have a program where they make sure animals that are used in for filmmaking, that they're there to ensure the animal welfare regulations, all the requirements are met for that animal during filming, which is awesome.
Oh, that's great. That's so great to know.
I love all the things they're doing, and I'm honored that they want me to be on their governing board. So that happened.
That's
I'm trying to think what else happened with me.
Well, we got to give you a clap for that. Yay!
Wait, the Steve blocked. Hold on. Yes. There we go. Yeah, it's been really, honestly, 2022 is a great year. And again, I think it's just showing what 2023 and beyond is going to be. It's going to be outstanding. Other things that I'm doing, I would love to, and I'm available for consulting services. If anyone has questions regarding the transportation of their animals, you can always go to my website, whenpets.com. And you can provide the information there. I think, I'll be honest, I've had maybe one, which was outstanding. It was basically a fellow veterinarian traveling with her pet, and she had some questions just to try to make sure everything goes well with him. She was traveling here to the United States. So I was very happy to assist her regarding that. So I'm here to help. There are a lot of regulations that are out, and we need to make sure that we comply with them. Another cool thing I did last year, and hopefully we'll continue on, I did a couple webinars on international pet travel for my fellow veterinarians. And with one, with Dr. Chrisman, DVM 360, that webinar, they said, had the most veterinarians signing up for that than all their other webinars. I think there was over 1,000 veterinarians or veterinary technicians that signed up for it. And after the end, we had the most questions that they ever had in the past. So, which is showing that this is a topic that's definitely needed in the veterinary profession. Probably also the education behind it is needed in our general population too. So there's a big need for pet travel education, and the standpoint that I'm giving, and I'm thinking more and more about it, it has to be pet centric, and it has to be also focused on compliance with domestic and international travel regulations. So that's the type of education that I want to provide.
That's fantastic. And, just to give people a, I guess, sneak peek into 2023, we also are, Dr. Bryant is working on providing education for veterinarians and vet techs towards the end of this year, where she will be able to do training for veterinarians to become accredited as your veterinarian who can sign off on health certificates,
right?
And then also helping those veterinarians who already have the accreditation recertify themselves in that.
Right. Definitely. What I want to do, and my plan is to have a lot of my presentations that I give race approved, so that veterinarians that listen in on the webinars can gain continuing education credit towards that. So now they'll get more specialized information towards pet travel, which actually is definitely needed.
Absolutely. And just to jump back real quick, if anybody would like to sign up for a 30-minute consultation with Dr. Bryant, you simply go to her website, and then she has a Calendly on there where you can pick a day and time that fits your schedule and link up with Dr. Bryant to get the most up-to-date information and tips and strategy on helping you and your pet either domestically travel or internationally travel.
Yeah, definite. Definitely need that. And another thing, and hopefully this will segue into Angela coming on board. I guess it reminds me, I just recently wrote an article on health certificates and as far as what's needed to travel. I based upon my experience working in clinical practice, which I do part-time basis, I've noticed that a lot of pet owners believe or have this thought that it's just simple to get a health certificate, it's simple to get an international health certificate for the transport of your pet, and it actually is not. In some instances, when you're traveling, especially internationally, I would highly recommend, because it's detailed. You might need the assistance of a someone that works in the pet industry, a member of the International Pet and Animal Transportation Association. These individuals in this organization can definitely help you. I attend these meetings, and I had the pleasure of meeting our guest today. And I believe what she's doing is outstanding. She's been doing it for quite some time. I followed her on LinkedIn. But again, traveling internationally or even domestically is going to require documentation. It's going to really require sometimes a lot of time to get your pet prepared. And I don't want pet owners to think it's something simple. I always say Dr. Google makes you think that it's just a simple document that you need, but actually more is required. A lot of time as far as veterinary, sometimes the veterinary visits are going to be extensive or multiple because diagnostic tests has to be done. And like I said, it's not as simple as you might think. It's not a simple document. You're going to need the assistance of someone to get you through the process. So hopefully that can segue us into Angela, because I'm very happy to have you here.
Absolutely. So let's bring Miss Angela in. Let's see if we got this right. Oh, there she is. Let me switch this around. Hi, Miss Angela. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you ladies today?
Yes,
fantastic.
We have Angela here today. I met Angela through LinkedIn, but I also bumped into her. I don't know if you recognize me or what, but we bumped into each other at the International Pet and Animal Transportation Association meeting that was in Honolulu, Hawaii this past 2022. And I just thought that she really would be a great person to have on the show. Like I said, these Facebook Lives are opportunities for me to share the people that I've met over the years that are working in pet travel. So that's why I definitely wanted you on here, Angela.
Absolutely.
Uh, well, let me introduce Miss Angela. I will read her bio to everyone. If you give me one moment. Let's see. Miss Angela Passman has been involved in pet shipping since
Excuse me for 1
1998.
second. Excuse me. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Miss Angela Passman has been involved in pet shipping since 1998. World Pet Travel has moved tens of thousands of pets over this past 25 years. We have been able to move a pet to just about every country around the world. Through the years, we have seen many things and learned much through our experience. For this reasons, I have written a book about some of the pet adventures over the years called Fly With Me, Relocating Abroad with a Furry Family Member. This book gives examples of what happens when things don't go exactly as planned and how we can usually make the trip happen, even if it is not exactly as originally planned. Everyone, please help me welcome Miss Angela Passerman.
Yes.
You gotta get the chat thing going.
I don't. There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah. Thank you, Angela, for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, Miss Angela, thank you so much for joining us. We have a lot of viewers that watch our show mostly after it's been taped. And then they come up with a lot of great questions for Dr. Bryant in regards to pet travel. And she has answers for so many, but she definitely loves to bring in colleagues such as yourself who specialize in the different areas so that you can speak about your expertise with with our viewers or with people that ask their questions to Dr. Bryant. But why don't you tell us more about yourself as well as your company and how you got started and all that good stuff?
Well, you gave me such a great intro. I'm not sure I can follow up with that. I started in 1998. I moved to another country and hired a company that I guess was using us as their guinea pigs because they had never been to that country before. So, needless to say, things didn't go very smoothly.
Wow.
So, once we got our feet planted in that new country, we started investigating how we could help transition other people less stressfully.
Yeah. Where were you traveling to? What was the country?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Okay.
My husband was transferred there with a company. And I found out over the years that lots of companies do that to people. They don't do that to people. They move them to different countries for
Right.
job opportunities. I have been working with several of those companies, so it's been good.
No, that's good because I mean, again, in a sense, back then you were in a sense a pet travel agency. I mean, we have our travel agencies that's focused on people, of course, but at that time there was no agencies that's focusing on pets and everything. So I think that's great.
Right. Thank you. So I began in Costa Rica. We came back to the United States in 2007, and I picked up where I left off, only I incorporated World Pet Travel at the time, and the rest is history.
Oh, that's good. So how long have you been a member of IPATA?
Since 2005.
Awesome. And can you tell us, well, I can mention, but you're as a member, could you share some more information about IPATA?
Sure. IPATA is a group of pet transportation specialists all over the world that are licensed in their countries, are trained on how to transport animals. It's not a fly-by-night company. It's someone you can trust. They answer to a higher calling, the IPATA Ethics Committee. So we know that everyone stays with good standards when working with their clients. You're not going to be, there's some companies out there that you can get through Yellow Pages or whatever that don't have the training and don't have the backing that we do with IPATA. I have personally a network all over the world through IPATA. So if I'm moving someone to Thailand, for instance, I reach out to one of our associate members there in Thailand, and they help me with the transport. Just about any country, I believe we're represented in like 160 countries now.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's great. And one thing I know with the airlines, at least I could say for Delta, I'm not sure about the others specifically, but a lot of the airlines will require that if you're transporting an animal internationally, that you get an assistance from an IPATA member to help with that transport. Because again, it's really detailed.
That is a fairly newer development. It
Okay.
wasn't always the case. Around about pre-COVID, I guess, just pre-COVID is when the companies or the airlines started slowly removing excess baggage and making IPATA members be the one to book the flights.
Right.
So now it's pretty much most of the airlines that are requiring that.
Yeah, because again, it's detailed, and it's good going through an IPATA member because again, you guys are aware of as far as the international requirements to get to these destination countries, so that you can assist with making sure the pet owner complies and get all the documentation in order. It's difficult because for the airline standpoint, unfortunately, sometimes the airline could transport someone to their final destination in a different country, and say if they don't meet requirements, then now you've got a pet potentially that's going to be sent back to the U.S. You've got a very unhappy pet owner and everything. So, and a lot of times the pet owner is blaming the airline for allowing them to go on the trip. So to kind of make sure that everyone is in order, no one gets fined, everyone is happy. At least I know for Delta, we're trying to make sure everything is in order before we take that transportation, because it's extremely important.
Dr. Bryant, I've got a really good example of that. Mm-hmm. We had a client, and they're in the book. We had a client, Tara and Tony, that were moving to Japan with a dog and a cat a couple of years back. And mm-hmm. It wasn't required that they book with an IPATA representative at the time. They got to the airport. They had sold their house, sold their cars, sold everything. Were there at the airport by taxi with their animals, and they couldn't leave because when they got up there to the ticket agent asked them where their import permit was.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything about an import permit. They had their rabies titer. They had everything in line for the thing, except they hadn't given their 40-day notice for Japan, so they didn't have an import permit. So thankfully, they contacted us, and since he was military, we were able to get them in under that 40 days because they have that exception for the military. So we kept Harley and Munchkin for about 2 weeks, and then they got to go on with their import permit. But that's one of the reasons that IPATA needs to be involved with these moves, because we know.
You see, and again, it goes to the education. The good thing about it now is sort of a help, but you have the USDA pet travel website. Kind of can help you and connect you and everything. But I like that website, and I think it's good, but I still think we should take it a step further and actually find out that country's entry requirements directly on their website, because what if by chance the USDA pet travel website is not updated or current and you miss that one document? And You're
exactly right. We always, back to the Bangkok move, even though we move to Bangkok regularly, we'll contact our people there and say, what are the latest and greatest import requirements? So we've got it from the USDA, and we've also got it directly from Thailand. So there's no hiccups. There's no way that you can mess it up.
Extremely important. I don't know how we can get, what I hope we can do in the near future is to really start engaging the pet parents and getting this information out, knowing that it's regulated. Folks think that, well, how Americans, we think we can do anything. We can take our pet anywhere we want to go, and don't consider the fact that it is an animal. And also, unfortunately, they do transmit diseases. And again, we humanize our pets, but we have to realize they are animals. They can transmit diseases. And when you're traveling to a different country, or even sometimes even within the states, Hawaii or Puerto Rico or Guam, there's going to be specific requirements for those pets to enter those locations. So you got to pay attention to that. So yeah, again, it's not as simple as just get this document. It's not as simple as that. So
And we were just contacted by someone just today, a corporation just today that was moving a client to Hawaii.
Mhm.
And they're getting ready to go. They thought they were getting ready to go next week, but you have to have a rabies titer in order to enter Hawaii. So they're not going next week. But thankfully, they reached out to us instead of arriving at the airport on an airline that would allow them to book it and then have to go into quarantine.
Well, I think it's 120 days if you don't meet the requirements for Hawaii too, and that would be their expense too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had someone just recently too. Someone that was military. They were going to be being PCS to Hawaii, and they sent me the documentation from their veterinarian. Say, is this sufficient? Do we have everything in order as far as from the pet owner? And I looked it over, and I looked at the destination, Hawaii, and I'm like, no, this is just a rabies vaccination certificate. Like you. So my response is, I gave them the USDA pet travel website. I gave them the Hawaii website as far as their requirements, and said, I would suggest you reach back with your veterinarian and discuss the requirements because they have not been met.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's scary. It's scary for them to go there and all that, and it's so many uncertainties. But again, we're at a stage now where the internet and everything, information is available, so you can't always go back and just think, oh, I had no idea, or in a sense, a lot of times, like I said, they'll blame the airline. You shouldn't have transported me there based upon it. We just need to somehow get information out to let it be known. It's not as simple as you think. You have to meet the requirements of that destination, state, or country. So,
I agree. Another misconception, and you've probably heard this, is about travel kennels and the proper size for pets. I know you've heard this at Delta.
Yes, I have. Yes.
That if they can stand up and turn around, it's sufficient. No, it's not. No, it's not. They have to stand up, turn around, jump up and down, do jumping jacks, have enough head clearance.
Right.
Where they don't bump the top of the kennel or hang off the end of it.
Right.
There's a particular way to measure them, but once you get the right size kennel for your pet, it's detrimental to them that you acclimate them to the credit.
You know what? I've been reviewing in preparation for this one meeting I'm going to do. I'm reviewing the DOT reportable events for the U.S. and I've gone back to say when they started making record of them in 2005. And I was telling Greta earlier, there are instances where the airline did something wrong. But you know what? There's even greater incidences where the pets were not either acclimated to their crate and they're trying to chew through the crate and get injured. The crates are falling apart during transport, or these pets have underlying medical conditions. Those are more frequent than you saying, oh, the airline was at fault. Oh, they just.
I agree.
Steps.
Yeah, those DOT records too. And it's shocking that there's so much bad publicity out there when it's not the fault of the airlines in 90% of the cases, maybe 95% of the cases.
Yeah.
So, and ladies, I'd like to just take a second to clarify for our pet parents, whether they're brand new or unaware of the difference. But the crates you are speaking of, and crate usually means the container that goes in cabin. I'm sorry, not in cabin, in cargo.
Yeah, we're talking primarily cargo. Yes.
Right. So, because a lot of pet parents are thinking of the carriers that they can stick underneath the seats.
Yeah. Man.
So because I've had someone ask me about that before, if the carrier is so big, it won't be able to go underneath the seat. And then I've had to tell them, and that's when it made me realize, they're not realizing there's two places an animal can go. Carriers go in cabin and underneath the seat, where crates go in cargo.
Yes.
And that's what you guys are talking about.
Right. And also to clarify a little bit too for folks, when we're saying the DOT, and that's the Department of Transportation, reportable events are for things that are going in cargo. They don't collect data for what happens in cabin and everything. But to be honest with you, as far as airlines and the bad rap that it gets is related to primarily cargo. and everything. That's why a good couple years ago, everybody was on the ESAN kick, emotional support animal kick, and bringing their falsifying stuff and getting their pets in cabin because they were fearful of going by cargo and everything. But again, the data with DOT and everything, really, it is not as bad as everyone.
Well, also, Dr. Bryant, they have to report each incident, whether it's a broken nail
Yes.
or a dog chewing on the crate, didn't do anything to the crate, just bloodied his mouth a little bit.
Yes.
They're referring to that as an incident. So that shows up as a strike against the airline, when in fact, it's not a strike.
It had nothing to do with the airline because they have to remark if there's any reporting of any external damage to the crate, and there's usually nothing.
Right.
And it's a ding against the airline. Even if, God forbid, if there's a death, majority of airlines follow up and get a necropsy on an animal, and they find that the pet has an underlying medical condition, which again has nothing to do with the airline. No evidence of external damage to the animal or the crate, but the pet dies for own medical reasons. But it's a ding against the airline. I would say, it's kind of interesting because I'm sure, and I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure people die on aircrafts. I'm sure people have heart attacks while in flight and cabin, but it's never a ding against the airline regarding that. So it's just so interesting, the negativity behind it and everything as far as being transported by cargo. Very interesting. Well, hey, let's jump to your question here though, because I know we're all over the place. I'm sorry. Why you tell me why it's important to acclimate your pet to the travel? I know, but you please share it, Angela.
I'm going to tell on myself.
Good.
There's a story in my book about Tommy. Tommy was a 150-pound Akita that was so calm, so laid back. They thought he was a Labrador. So far as temperament goes, the vets would all the time say what a great dog he is. We put Tommy into a kennel to fly him back from Costa Rica to the United States. We didn't acclimate him. We thought he's a Labrador type personality. He won't have any problem.
Right.
When they opened the cabin door where the pets are kept in the forward, when they opened the forward, there he was staring at them. He was no longer in his crate.
So, I'm glad he was a good dog or outside. Look, outside the crate was awesome, but he did not want to be confined. That's a definite one. Not comfortable with confinement, basically. So yes.
So it's very important to acclimate your pets to the kennel, because even the most docile, laid back, easygoing 150-pound Akita gets stressed.
Guess what? I know of about a year ago, it wasn't on Delta, it was a different airline. It was, what are those dogs? Australian Shepherds, the ones that quick play frisbee.
Yeah.
This thing broke a compliant, well, it looks like it was compliant crate. It broke out of it. If a dog has in their mind that they're getting out of that crate,
they can get out.
Not going to stop them getting. So it also was not acclimated to being confined in the crate. And it's going to take time. It could take weeks. It could take months for them to get accustomed to it and everything. So that's one important step for travel. If you know you're going to travel, even if it's to be honest with you, instead of saying get it acclimated to it, sometimes it might be a good idea to just keep your pet's crate out at all times to get them comfortable with knowing that that's their spot, That's
the best way to do it, yeah.
I was just going to ask you guys if you could give tips on how do you train your pet, cat or dog, to get acclimated to the crate?
Make it their bed, make it their happy place. Put their treats in there. Put their comfy bed in there. Feed them there. Reward them when they go in. There's a dozen things you can do to make them happier with the crate. Now, oftentimes people will separate the crate top and bottom and just put the bottom in the room until, if the dog is claustrophobic and doesn't want to get in it first, just put the bottom in it and put your bed in. And let them know that's the place that they're going to sleep.
Okay.
Then as it gets more and more, you just have to take it in stages. And like you said, it can take days, it can take weeks, it can take months.
Right. It
just depends on the personality of the dog. But as you progress, then you'll get to where you put the lid on the crate, and then you'll get where you put the door on the crate, and then you leave them in there for a little bit of time. And they do very well.
Right, yeah, definitely.
But
that's great tips.
An investment of time.
Yeah, it takes time, but you know what most folks do is they house train their pet, their dog, and then put the crate away. And then finally now, oh, we're going to travel, and they pull it out. And the unfortunate thing is the dog is now doubled its size, and they still want to try to cram it in there. And as you were saying earlier, there has to be ample space. And it's not just say, oh, a comfort. That's actually an animal welfare regulation that folks don't realize. That's a regulation. So you have to comply with that. Don't get mad if the airline says no, because again, they have to comply with these regulations. So just be aware that it's all regulated.
We just had a pet that the owner decided that the pet would go in this size kennel. And a lot of people don't know the numbers, but they decided it was going to go in a 500 kennel, which is 40 to 27 by 30. And we got to the airlines. The airline says, you need to put that dog in a bigger crate. Well, the owner got upset with us because they couldn't understand why their dog needed that larger crate. It was grossly oversized. And you know how giant the giant kennels are.
Yeah.
So for an untrained person to understand why the airlines would make them do that, it's very difficult to overcome sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's you either comply with what the airline tells you or you don't go.
Right. Definitely.
Now, if you both could give tips on, okay, I just got the call, let's say it's with my job, that I have to move to another country. So if we're moving from the United States to, let's say, China, what are some tips that you can tell me as a pet parent for me to prepare, as well as to prepare my pet for a trip?
I'll go first if you don't mind, Angela. I'm gonna go from the veterinary aspect as a veterinarian. If I know I'm going to be moving to China with my pet, one of the first things I want to do is contact my veterinarian and let them know that they're moving to China and start working on the requirements for entry into China. That will be my first step there. What about you? What do you have to add?
Back to the crate. Get that crate as soon as you find out. Get the proper measurements, and as soon as you find out, get that crate and get started on that. Get started on acclimating the pet to the crate.
Yes, I definitely agree. Like I said, make sure it's an IATA compliant crate. It's the appropriate size, and get them acclimated to that crate because that's extremely important.
Not airline approved.
Thank you.
Magic words. IATA compliant.
Thank you. But I don't know if you'll see that often anymore. I have, it's funny. I've seen, it's been a couple of years, but I've seen a logo on one crate that said it was IATA compliant. But guess what? It had 2 doors. That doesn't make it. That doesn't make it. Yeah. Yeah. So you have to be careful. The best thing to do actually is to get a copy of the container requirement number, which will be under IATA. Live animal regulations, which is basically IATA. IATA is the International Air Transportation Association. They have the Live Animals Regulations Manual, so IATA LAR. If you look under container requirement number 1, it will give the specifications on the requirements for that travel container for your pet, and it also give you a tool in there to measure your pet to ensure it's the appropriate size.
That's right, it will.
Mm-hmm.
So you both brought up some excellent points, and I recommend. I represent the Pet Parent Society. So awesome. You brought up 2 really great points that I want to point out and clarify for other pet parents. So number 1, a lot of these crate companies are using marketing to get over. When they're saying that the crates are airline approved, when they're really not. And so, my first question is, how do we know what is exactly the best crate to get, or what do we look for to see which for sure is an airline approved? And I'm thinking probably to look up what the airline's requirements are. And know that when I go shopping. So that's one question. And I guess that would go to Miss Angela. And the other question to Dr. Bryant is, okay, so you said the first step would be to go to your veterinarian, which I believe is true because your veterinarian knows the health issue of your pet.
Mhm.
However, your veterinarian may not be accredited and cannot sign off on the health certificate. So I wanted to be sure that we mention that because
Perfect.
there's a
You,
link to look
you,
up
I love you.
accredited
Yeah,
veterinarians.
I love you, Greta, because I always forget that detail. You're right. Not just any veterinarian is not going to be capable. So just because you have your DVM does not mean you have the ability and right or the credentials to sign off on a health certificate. You have to
Right.
be a USDA accredited veterinarian. So that means as a veterinarian, there's additional training and certification that
Right.
I need to sign off on this document and everything because it is an official government. It's a federal government document. So not
Yes.
anybody can sign it. So yeah, thank you for that because I always forget that one detail.
But I
Also,
mean, I do agree with you about your veterinarian because they know the health history and you'll need to go to him to get the records.
Yep.
But if they're not accredited, you got to take those records to an accredited veterinarian. I just wanted to make sure people knew that step, and wanted to interject that.
All right.
it's
Thank you.
also a good time to reach out to a pet travel specialist
Yes.
as soon as you know you're
Absolutely.
moving. Work in
Absolutely.
conjunction with the veterinarian, work together because a lot of the veterinarians, even though iPad gives you, no, excuse me, not iPad, USDA gives you the regulations now for veterinarians, not all of them are up to date on it. Not all of them understand
Right.
that.
Right.
So it helps to have a pet travel company working with you and working with your vet at the same time from the very beginning.
Absolutely. You know, and an expert and professional such as yourself and your company, World Pet Travel, you know, you guys are worth its weight in gold in the fact that not only can you guide the pet parent through the process, but you act as an advocate to make sure that every entity is up to date, as you mentioned, with regulations, and is speaking the proper language, and it's not just marketing talk. So, you know, that's why I highly recommend World Pet Travel, you know, to be, you know, someone to reach out to help you on both ends. Because as Dr. Bryant has pointed out in several lives, you know, it's not just taking off, you have to prepare for it. It's also entering into a new country. So,
A lot of people think that pet travel companies are so expensive, but in my book, for instance, there's half a dozen stories in there of people that tried to do it on their own,
Uh-huh.
ended up paying considerably more money when
yeah,
they had to hire someone to help them do it right the second time.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if you get
absolutely.
if you get the instruction from the beginning from the people that know the processes, you're going to save money, even though it's a chunk on the front end. You're going to save money by not doing it the wrong way or getting there and not having a microchip or not having an import permit or any number of things that can happen when you're not following protocol.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I just want to add something about World Pet Travel and other members of IPATA. You guys have to have the IATA LAR training too, so that gives you an extra thing. So they know as far as the airline requirements, plus they know there's the manual. Love it.
All
Um,
have this book on
they
our desk.
they have that specific training, which is geared towards what the airlines need to comply with. So they're familiar with that. And then also your say international destination entry requirements for your pet. So it's a perfect combination. Basically, they're a great liaison between the airline and getting to your future destination. Basically,
I wanted to jump into this next question, which is about vaccinations. And I know it probably varies from, you know, country to country, but is there like a boilerplate? I've always wondered of you've got to make sure you have these.
Dr. Bright, do you want to
well,
answer?
as a veterinary side point from just reviewing it, it all depends on your destination country, but there are a series of core vaccinations that are required. There's core vaccinations that we have. You've got the distemper parvo vaccine, lepto, rabies is a definite for just about every country will want that. Some of the others that might be, in the border tele, some of the others that might not be a core vaccine that might be required might be canine influenza. When it comes to cats, you got the core one would be the FVRCP, potentially FELV. So it all depends. But again, you want to make sure they're vaccinated. Whatever the destination or country requires, make sure they're vaccinated. They'll also probably require them to be treated for intestinal parasites. So anti-parasitic treatment needs to be provided. And depending on the country, they might want a rabies titer. In addition to a rabies vaccination, they might want microchipping. So, but yeah, tell me, Angela, if I'm missing anything, or just add on.
You're right on target. You know, I was just going to say, to go from the United States to Europe, the only thing that's actually required is a rabies vaccine. Going into the UK, then it's the endo-ecto treatment as well, or echinococcus treatment, I'm sorry. But we always recommend that everyone have all of their vaccines. For dogs, the DHLP; for cats, the FVRCP, because they're going to be in transit. They're going to be traveling. They're going to be around other animals.
Yes.
It's important that they have all of their base vaccines, not just their rabies, if that's the only thing that's required.
Yeah, and see, and what people don't realize too, when you go to different countries, they might not have the same things that we have in the U.S. or as far as the vaccine preventable diseases for pets here. They might have something totally different, and it's more significant when it comes to parasites than anything, I imagine, because they might have a different type of roundworm, a different type of tapeworm. You said echinococcus, that's a tapeworm. So they might have something different in that country that you want to prevent. And of course, as far as anti-parasitic treatments going to that country, they want to make sure that pet is not bringing it into their country. So these requirements are like, in a sense, their way to protect their country and the animals in their country. And the requirements may vary depending on the region. You said Europe region, man, you try to go to Australia. Have you done some work with Australia?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's a bit different.
Yeah.
There's considerably more required going into Australia.
I always joke about the years ago, and it's really bad I do this, but the Johnny Depp situation, you heard about that, right? Where they tried to go in there with their dogs and they did not meet the requirements for Australia, and Australia was saying that either they're going to have to go or humane euthanasia. And it was kind of an uproar of saying, oh my God, how could they do this? But that is their country and they have their requirements, and your celebrity or whoever you are is not going to have them bend the rules for you because they're protecting their country.
That's right. That's right. It's not the airline's fault. It's not the country's fault. It's the person's fault that took them over there without having the proper vaccinations.
Right.
I wanted to, there's a question that came up, and it actually got me thinking, wow, I wonder if something really does happen in transit. Like, do they have their own stewardess or something pushing a cart? But do our pets get fed while in transit?
No, they do not. And you don't want to feed them while they're in transit because they run the risk of aspirating.
Then they might have to go to they might have
bowel
movement and everything. But you know what? I've noticed one location does the transit point going through Amsterdam, the Air France KLM Animal Hotel.
Amsterdam.
I visited there last year.
Lufthansa and the Hark, all three do. If the animal can be there more time, if the going to be there more than 6 or 7 hours.
Yes.
They're going to be certain that the dog has time to relieve itself and not regurgitate the food in air, so they won't feed them on those close connections.
No, it is. Yes, you're definitely correct. It's not a small, I think you're right, maybe 4 to 6 hours. If there's a delay in between, they'll allow the animals out of their containers, clean them, put them in, caging, walk them, whatever, and they feed them. Actually, Royal Canin, they feed good food. So yeah, they make sure the animals are taken care of. But again, these are for longer layovers and everything. But the normal transit, if it's less than 4 hours, unlikely for them to be fed in transit. But although in case of emergency, it's always recommended that the pet owner KLM, AF KLM at their hotel, they feed Royal Canin, but still it's ideal puts a supply of your dog's food on the top of the crate just as a preventative or
have
as a
to have-
precaution and everything.
You have to have food on top of
like
the
that.
kennel to be accepted by the airline.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if they don't eat it, it has to be up there.
Yep.
Here is a question I know is near and dear to Dr. Bryant's heart. But someone wants to know, can I sedate
no
my
too.
dog?
Good. All right, take it, Angela. She knows what I'm
The Xanax, leave the dog alone.
Yes.
You take the Xanax for yourself, leave the dog alone. The dog will be fine.
Yes.
We do not sedate animals at a higher altitude. It intensifies the effect, slows down their respiratory system, their heart rate. You don't want to do that to a dog.
Yes.
You're not supposed to for the airlines anyway. They don't permit it.
Right.
So that's a bit of a passion for me.
Yes, I'm glad you're on the page. We're on the same page with it. Again, going back to my DOT review, I was reading one report. I'm not laughing, but it just amazes me. The pet had a history of a respiratory condition that the owners were aware of. So number one, he wasn't a good candidate for flight. Then they gave it something to sedate it. And then, of course, at arrival, it was dead upon arrival, unfortunately. But everything was telling you right there not to do it. And you did it, and then you gave it a sedative. Yeah, not a good idea.
No.
Not a good idea.
And, you mentioned something before about all animals are not fit to fly, or maybe I just dreamt that up. But
no, you're right.
I have a 13-year-old Chihuahua that I don't know if you've met him or not, Dr. Bryant. He wasn't in Hawaii, but he comes to all the other conferences.
Mm-hmm.
But he cannot fly. He could not fly as cargo because he has Addison's and diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
He's blind and he can't hear. For me, we have people that contact us that want us to move a dog like Cooper on a flight, and we have to turn them down and tell them we can't do that.
Right.
We can't do that. It's not in the best interest of the dog. It's not in the best interest of him, anything.
Right. Well, you know what? What I would love to see happen in the future is that as veterinarians who are reviewing, doing more than just, again, you're accredited veterinarian, completing a health certificate or international health certificate. I think we should take it a step further where there's a review of the medical history of that pet.
I agree.
To ensure that they are medically fit or sound for air travel. Now, history of, you said, diabetes. What else I'm saying your baby has? Addison's disease. Those two things. History of seizures. Any heart problems, heart murmurs. Evidence of congestive heart failure, respiratory, anything.
Yeah.
Then it's not in the best interest. It's not smart.
Cooper could pass a health check if we went right now. He's got a slight heart murmur, but he's in good health other than having these underlying conditions. But if you delve into it, like you said, you can see this dog clearly should not be flying.
Right. And the sad thing about it is, like I said, the health certificate, it does not mean your pet is healthy. It means they meet the requirements of the destination as far as infectious diseases. And we can all go into the thought of what we went through with going through with COVID. I could have COVID. That's an infectious disease, right? Okay, I don't have anything infectious, but I have underlying diabetes. I have this or whatever else. So doesn't necessarily mean I'm healthy,
right,
as the document says,
Right.
So we need to look at the term. I keep saying we need to change the term from health certificate. Maybe we just say certificate of veterinary inspection. That sounds a whole lot better than health, because your average pet owner is going to think that means my pet is healthy. And that's not the case.
It states that this animal is healthy and free of contagious diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And it says that on every health certificate. So it's clearly not healthy if it has an underlying condition.
Yes. So, but yeah.
We got way off topic.
I know. Sorry.
Come back, Greta. We got way off topic.
I love it when we have like minds on here, because an hour is just not enough. And there's literally 4 questions that we got to cover in the next 10 minutes.
Okay.
I apologize early where I'm going to kind of keep us on track.
Okay.
Sorry. No. I love it. So here's another one I'm popping up, and it asks, can my pets travel together in the same kennel? I'm assuming only 2, but is that allowed?
Under 20 pounds, what's the rule, Dr. Bryant? Under 20 pounds, of
They
the
have,
spring litter.
well, they have to be between 8 weeks of age and 6 months only.
Okay.
And they both have to weigh no more than 20 pounds each. And that's it. So my two little chihuahuas that are 2 years old that might be under 20 pounds each, they don't meet because they're over 6 months of age. So the answer is no. And I wouldn't do it. I mean, okay, for puppies, okay, for that, fine. And that meets the requirements for USDA animal welfare regulations, say it's okay that way. Outside of that, it's not smart with, say, they're adult dogs, because this is now, they might be fine. They might be perfect at home, sleep together, whatever. This is a stressful environment for them. You don't know how animals will respond during really stressful environments for them, being confined like that. I had a colleague, I mean, they weren't traveling by air, but I had a colleague that put their dogs in a kennel together at a boarding facility together, and they kept them in the same cage. And do you know, the stress of that environment, I hate to say it, but one of the other ones attacked the other one and actually killed it. So you don't know what stress will do to certain animals, how they'll respond. They're in a small crate.
Yeah.
It's not ideal to do that. So have you had any experience with that?
We just don't do it.
Good.
Just don't do it for that exact reason. We have someone that wants to move their two cats together. That's a lovely idea,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just not a good idea. Because you do have the anxiety that comes along with it, and you don't want to make it even worse for them by having them confined together.
Right.
So then from what you are both saying, I guess at most maybe 2 kittens, 2 puppies, less than 6 months old, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would imagine that's not a good idea because, older animals, cats have claws. And even though that might be the brother or sister, or brother and brother and sister, like you said, a stressed environment. And if the crate moves and, who else are you going to attack? But
Just think how stressed we are when we have to go through an airplane, through a flight, how stressed we are. And we're not in the crate. We're not in the hole.
Right.
So it's worse for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, ladies, I know I have to be at the airport by myself 2 hours early just to get me through everything. If I'm traveling with my dog or my cat, do I need to tack on another hour or two?
If they're going as cargo, the cargo carriers are requiring 4 to 6 hours before flight to be checked in, depending on the airline. Some are 5, some are 6, most are 4. The large states suggests 4 hours, but not all airlines go with that. So
USDA allows between 4 and 6 hours. If you have to make special arrangements if it's more than 4 hours prior with the airline to make sure it's okay. And traveling internationally too, isn't the time frame a little bit longer, or is it still 4 to 6?
4 to 6.
4 to 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Another question. So I know that, I probably have to have a lot of documentation for the animals that are traveling with me, but is there documentation that needs to be with the crate while it's in cargo?
All of the originals, the health certificate, the rabies vaccinations, the other vaccinations, the core vaccinations, all those documents should travel with the pet. You can keep copies with yourself on your person, but the originals must travel with the pets.
Yeah. You got to consider the fact that the animal is going to be taken from cargo to a different location as you being in the cabin. So they need the original documents with the animal.
Right. And they're not going to come looking for you for them.
Okay. Now, just so again, because there's 2 different ways that pet parents know their pets can travel. So if it's coming in cabin, do you need all the same documentation as well?
Yes, you do need health certificate to travel in cabin. You do need your vaccination certificates to hand over to the customs when you get into that other country.
Okay.
That in that instance, they would travel on your person, but you've got
Right.
the pet with you.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Let's grab one more question. And can I put toys and treats in the kennel with our pet in cargo?
Okay,
Absolutely not.
thank you. I was worried what you're going to say.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, potentially choking hazards. That's one thing, fear there. And this is going to include, I know it's on there, but this would, I know for Delta, this would include your GPS tracker collars. This would include, we actually don't even allow people who have the thunder vests and stuff like that. We don't allow that. And so, yeah, tell me, we don't allow it. So, but go ahead, Angela, please.
No, you're right. No travel, no toys, no treats, no GPS trackers, no collars on the dogs. No, none of that.
Okay, so let me ask this because I actually saw this list as a what to pack for in cargo, and it was the bed or blanket so that they'll have the smell of home, and it was toys that was allowed, and those were the three that I saw. So hearing from the both of you as experts, that's a no-no, correct?
Well, just be aware. Was it specific for that list for in cabin or cargo? Because in cabin,
It was for cargo.
It was cargo.
Whose list was it? It wasn't an airline's list.
No, it was somebody. I read a blog and it was saying recommending what to pack for your pet to travel, and it said to travel, and they did not differentiate between cabin or cargo.
Yeah.
So that's a very good question, Dr. Bryant. And I'm assuming cargo because in cabin they already have all that stuff in there.
If they're going as cargo, when they do the TSA sweep, they'll sweep that right out of there. They will not let them. If we tried, which we're not going to, but if someone tried to sneak a toy or a treat or something in there, it comes out when the sweep is done.
Yeah, you got to consider the potential choking hazard of things, and I'm sure you've seen lately. They've shown videos of dogs choking on balls and everything. It's a potential choking hazard, so those aren't allowed. Main thing to comfort them, again, yes, I agree. Put a shirt or something that you've worn so you're familiar with your odor and stuff. That's fine and all, but those additional things in their toys, no, don't do it.
What about in cabin?
In cabin, it's funny. In cabin, you can kind of almost do what you want. Seems like it's not regulated the same way as it's going by cargo. Again, by cargo, it's under the custody of the airline, and the airline is trying to make sure the animal is safe at all times.
Right.
While in the cargo hold, there's no one there to assist them, and so folks know there's no, as in the movies, there's no compartment that they can connect from the cat in cabin down to check on pets during transport. That's not happening. So that's movies. That's not real life. So there's no one to assist your pet if it's in danger during transport as a safety precaution. None of those things as far as toys and things that could be choking hazards.
Okay.
We have 2 minutes, Lori B. But yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Sorry.
And I wanted to give Miss Angela a chance to talk about her book because we covered it slightly in the beginning, but I think it's a good time for her to tell us about her book. I know that has some changes, and I'd like to give her the chance to update us all.
Well, the original book came out, and it was traveling abroad with a furry family member. Decided to change the title to relocating abroad because this is more what the book is about. We're not traveling. We're not taking vacations. We're relocating with a pet. So all of the stories in the book do talk about moves that people have undergone and what their experiences have been.
No, that's good. I think it's great, again, because people need to, in a sense, learn from that and not what you might heard of something happening negative or that really you don't know the full story. So I think
your statistics, your DOT statistics are in here.
Good.
So a lot of information, different stories, how people have forgotten something or misread something or weren't prepared. It's the majority of moves in the book are ones that we were brought in secondary thought. We've got a couple of
What made you write the book, and what was your intentions behind it as maybe as a manual people can use in trying to prepare for their travels?
Honestly, Greta, it was to educate people on pet travel that it's not that bad. It's not what the media presents it to be as a horrible, terrible, oh, I'll transport my pet any way I can except cargo. It's not bad.
Mhm.
We've moved thousands of pets, tens of thousands of pets. We've never, knock on wood, we've never lost one. We've never had one arrive deceased. We've been very blessed. Um, but I believe it's because we follow the rules.
Right.
We follow the rules.
You're
So
you're prepared. Again,
right.
you're making
The
sure that
moral,
you're prepared for it.
the
Uh,
moral to the story of the book is if you follow the rules, you'll get there successfully.
right.
Absolutely. Well, I know that I definitely enjoyed this time with you. I'm so sorry it's just an hour because I know that Dr. Bryant and I could go on forever talking with you, and we will have to bring you back. You're just filled with wealth of knowledge. I'd like to definitely recommend that every pet parent that is preparing to travel, make sure you reach out to World Pet Travel and Miss Angela to book their services, because when you need an event that has really good food and you want to just be the host, you hire a caterer.
Right.
So when you're trying to travel somewhere and you want somebody to take care of you, you hire somebody that specializes in it.
Right.
And I believe that they'll be in great hands with you. And like I said, I can't wait to bring you back so we can dive in more in giving some great tips to our pet parents who are watching.
Thank you
Would
both.
you like to say anything to the crowd before we go?
No, I appreciate very much the time that I've had here, Dr. Bryant. I
Mhm.
think we could talk for days.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I love it that we're on the same page. I'm so thankful you're here because again, I've met really nice people in my travels as far as being on this route for pet travel, and I just felt it would be great to kind of share what you do and everything, and show the option for our pet parents that if you need assistance, there's folks out there that are doing it and know how to do it well. So, yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me
Well,
know if
thank
I can
you.
do anything else to help.
yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you, and we'll definitely have you back to share more knowledge with our viewers.
Sounds good. Thank you,
Wonderful.
ladies.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everyone, you have a great evening.
All right, great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, I'm still in the studio. I'm staying in the studio. Hey, hey.